Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Water Online Show. I am your host, Travis Kennedy, joined, as always, by my co-host, Mr. Worldwide, Chief Editor here at Water Online, Kevin Westerling. Kevin, we're back, baby.
Yes, we got a good one today.
We sure as heck do. And
Love it.
We appreciate wherever you may be listening and however you may be watching, whether or not you tune in every single day or this is your first time. We appreciate you spending your time here with us on the Water Online Show, brought to you by Water Online, the leading online destination for the water and wastewater market. There's a topic that has been going around for years now, it seems, and it's top of mind for a lot of our listeners and a lot of the users for Water Online and the water community as a whole. I'm going to call it PFAS for the simplicity of edification, and I don't mess up the long form version of what is invading our water systems. It seems to be across the nation. But yes, PFAS is the topic for today's segment. You may remember that we did a segment last year in season 1 of the Water Online Show where we talked about the Horsham Way. Horsham, Pennsylvania is the town of which Water Online headquarters is, and the studio of which we're coming at you right now. And it was one of the pioneers related to how a municipality can attack the PFAS problem. The reason I say pioneers is because they were talking many years ago. 5 years ago, it was there was no playbook at that point. But I am extremely proud at the way this township handled it. They identified it, they tested, they fixed, they have processes and solutions in place to make sure that that PFAS is treated. I just couldn't be prouder.
Yeah.
And then, Kev, you brought to my attention what a town in my home state of New Jersey is doing there in Salem. So what's the overview of what's going on there?
Well, like us, they had localized PFAS issues, and whereas we put some treatment systems in place in the current water treatment plant, they went bigger and bolder. And
we like big and bold.
Yeah,
right.
And they built a whole plant, or they're doing it now.
Okay,
they broke ground. So let's bring them in and talk about it.
We're going to get more specifics here from them directly. So please allow me to welcome to the Water Online Show the mayor of Salem, New Jersey, Dr. Jody Veler, and of course, the president of American Water New Jersey, Mr. Mark McDonough. Thank you very much, both of you, for spending your time here with us today.
My pleasure.
Yep. Thanks for having us.
Sure thing. So, Travis gave a little background there, and it's an honor to have you both. This is kind of like a podcast case study of sorts, and our audience loves case studies. So let's kind of talk about the background. And Jody, as mayor of Salem, who are your constituents? How many people do you serve? And therefore, how many people does New Jersey American Water serve?
We are a small community in a rural area. We have about 5,000 residents, give or take, at any year. So that's what American Water serves here.
Okay. And then Mark or Jody, what is the water source and how did that become contaminated with PFAS?
They are wells. We use wells. And during routine testing, we were over the limit for the state of New Jersey, which the state of New Jersey already had a fairly low limit for PFAS. I think it was at a 13 parts per million, and we tested in at a 14 parts per million out of one of the primary wells. We are also, I will say, in the footprint of what was DuPont chemicals.
We've heard of that.
Now,
we've heard of them.
And now Chemours is out there. So that is, the suspected source of, the PFAS, but PFAS travels. We were lucky for a certain period of time, and then we weren't.
Right. And I mean, New Jersey is pretty progressive when it comes to those limits, right? I mean, it's they're on it, which is fantastic.
Yeah, the EPA limit at the time was about 70 parts per million, and we were at 13 in the state.
Right. But I mean, when you think about it, it should give residents of the state some solace and some comfort to know that, like, hey, our limit is way, way stricter than say what the EPA or the national limit might be.
It didn't.
Yeah.
All they saw was that letter go out. You know,
Right.
that's like you have PFAS, and it was
That's the way it works.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Without a doubt. But there is also some solace to be taken in the fact that American Water in New Jersey, in and of its own, sees a lot of accreditation about just how good it is at supplying safe, healthy water to its constituents. So we are just so happy to have both of you here on the show. I am curious though, once you tested and you found the contamination, what options were presented to help reduce the exposure to your citizens? And how did you land? How did you land on building a whole new treatment plant?
Well, that was progressive. The initial option was we had to shut down the well. There was no other choice but to shut down the well. But the concern with that is that PFAS travels.
Right.
And if it showed up in another well, then we would really have been in trouble because it would have been almost like a drought situation. So we got very lucky with that. And I believe we were already probably in negotiations, maybe with American Water. Were we, Mark?
Yeah, I think so.
We had opened up that conversation about selling the water and sewer utility. And we just dealt with it as best as we could until we actually got the referendum through for American Water to purchase the system. We had reached out to our engineers, and they were starting plans to develop a filter, which probably would not have been as good as the one that American Water is putting in. And it would have taken us a much longer period of time to be able to do that, where American Water is coming in and they're building something really, significant. We would have probably just had to patch it together as best as we could have.
So, if I could just clarify a point.
Yeah.
And I excuse the mayor because I'm paid to be her water expert.
Yeah.
The standard is parts per trillion.
Oh, parts per trillion.
So New Jersey was at a 13 parts per trillion, and the EPA has subsequently gone to 4 parts per trillion.
Right.
I caught that. I don't want to say anything, but I'm kidding. I appreciate you bringing that out, Mark. Thank you very much.
So, but that is, it's interesting that American Water just took over like only about a year ago.
Mm.
I'm sure you did your due diligence and you knew that PFAS was around. Did that kind of did that throw you a little bit in the negotiations or the decision, or like how you would go about getting water quality to where it needed to be?
Not at all. I mean, New Jersey American Water is the largest water provider in the state of New Jersey. We serve about 2.9 million people every day in 190 communities. We've been putting PFAS treatment in for well over a decade. We were actually treating for PFAS before it was a regulated compound. So we felt very comfortable. And frankly, what we tell mayors like Mayor Veler is that we're here to be a solution provider. So we feel like we're at our best when we're facing a challenge like the city was with the consent decree that they had with the state of New Jersey to institute treatment that would remove the PFAS from the system. So we were very comfortable with it. It just helped us set the framework for how much work we had to do sort of right out of the gate.
So the EPA rule setting treatment standards for PFAS came down really soon after the timeframe we're talking about. So I'm curious how that correlated to the decision for the need for the plant in and of itself. You have a lot of experience in this, as I'm sure American Water does as a whole, Mark, in New Jersey. So what became of all that? What did that timeline look like?
Sure. I mean, as we had negotiations, as Mayor Veler said, and we went through a referendum and the people of Salem chose to entrust us with this, we were doing a lot of work around how to approach this problem. We expected the EPA decision in terms of setting that MCL for PFOAs and PFAS However, would say that, like much of the country, we might be a little surprised that they set it at 4 parts per trillion. But it didn't really alter our approach or the urgency, because as Mayor Veler said, they were already having a challenge with New Jersey's fairly strict standard at 13 parts. So, and just also to be clear, the town built what we call a membrane plant in 2012, and pieces of that plant are going to stay in commission as we build this. We have taken down an older plant right next to it to accommodate the PFAS, the granulated activated carbon that we're going to use. But we're also investing money into modifying the existing physical plant that's there.
Okay, that makes sense. Goes into my next question for the hardcore treatment professionals out there looking to treat their own PFAS situation. I guess there are a number of ways to go about it. You mentioned membranes and GAC. So can you talk about the decision to go with that? It sounds like some of it carried over from previous treatment measures you had in place. Yeah, go ahead.
Absolutely. So we have 7 surface water plants that we operate in the state of New Jersey, and we've been running what we call testing protocols at each of those plants with the new standard. However, I would say that our general theory is that granulated activated carbon filtration is really the preferred methodology. It is tried and true, very effective, and you can regenerate carbon. We do have what we call ionic exchange. We did look at that in this case. However, there are some challenges around using that. So we're going to go in Salem and probably in most of our plants with granulated activated carbon, building those vessels and working the water through there.
Now, I'm fascinated by this plant that's getting built, and the plan is to have the plant go live within 18 months. Now, look, I'm a proud New Jerseyan. We think fast, we talk fast, we act fast, and we do it right. But 18 months for this plan. I'm just curious, like how is that going to be accomplished?
Yeah, well, very well. But one of the things is New Jersey American Water invests approximately $500 million worth of capital a year. We have a massive engineering project, and as I said, we work all across the state. One of the things we're doing, because of the existence of the consent decree that requires that this be online by December of 2025, is we are leveraging our relationships and our economies of scale with our builder and our designer. And we're going to actually do a design build process as opposed to traditionally design bid build construction process. So we've been able to sort of streamline that process. We'll value engineer it. And we think that can be very effective. The other thing is that because of our size, we've had a lot of conversations with DEP, and we have a lot of trust built up with the DEP. So we've asked them, can you help us permit faster because of the need to conform to the consent decree in this case, and sort of streamline that process? So that's really another advantage that we could offer to the town when we stepped into their shoes to take over the construction of the treatment.
Right. And we know a new plant couldn't have been cheap. They never are. So
that's an understatement.
Right. And Mayor Veler, I'm sure you're very sensitive to your ratepayers and how that can affect them. But this is a shared responsibility, right? The PFAS comes into the plant of no fault of, the water system. So is there any help coming from either federally or some of the polluters to help with the cost of that plant?
So American Water is involved in litigation involving some of the major creators of this problem, particularly in New Jersey. And we are in a position when we receive settlement funds, which we do anticipate over time, to return those to our ratepayers. The other advantage that we have is, as much as we have economies of scale on purchasing and designing and building, we have economies of scale on the size. We have 700,000 customers. and we are building all across the state. So we spread that cost out for these types of projects, and we'll invest, our current estimate is about $23 million, not just on this treatment, but rehabbing the overall plant to make it constructed. So that cost gets spread out. When you're able to leverage, water is a very fragmented industry. When you're able to leverage a large customer base, you can really help with that cost situation, and everybody pays a little bit as opposed to one community being burdened with all of the cost of the construction.
That makes a lot of sense. And one thing that I'm curious about, and this may be more of a question for Mayor Veler, were there any political or constituent hurdles involved as we went through this process? I mean, nobody likes to bring up politics or religion, so I'm gonna keep this on a very surface level. And we assume everybody is for clean water, but there are always competing concerns. Balance that. So
the process, there's a process in New Jersey called a WIPA process. And Egg Harbor City had used it where you really didn't have to go through what we went through. But there were some constituents in the city that felt that that wasn't fair, that everybody should have a say. So they kind of pushed for that referendum. So we did run a campaign. We explained everything as best as we could. American Water supported that in many different ways. And the reality of it was we are a distressed community. We're the second most distressed community in New Jersey. And the water and sewer utility, the reason that the past mayor had started the WIPA process was because that water and sewer utility was not even hitting a break-even point. It was, no pun intended, underwater the entire time that we were running it. It was really a drain. The city itself is celebrating its 350th anniversary. So you can imagine the patchwork of infrastructure and the age of the infrastructure, in addition to, just the staffing to maintain everything. We were running at a huge deficit and that deficit was really falling on the taxpayers. So with that, and the PFAS issue that came out in the middle of it, the community did decide that, it was best to move ahead into this shared service model. Because that's really what it is. It's a shared service model. You're splitting all of these costs with 700,000 other customers, so that burden isn't falling just on the Salem City residents.
That makes a lot of sense. I can't see anybody not being happy with that compromise at all.
If maybe I could just comment on that too. I really want to commend Mayor Veler on the courage she had, because it's oftentimes easy for folks to do nothing in a crisis situation, and it can be very hard. There's a lot of times people will be naysayers in a community, but she had the vision to do this, and we had a good story to tell. And we won overwhelmingly in the referendum, thanks to the courage of Mayor Veler and her city council. And it really is, a point of pride for me that they had the trust in us. And we take that very seriously, the role we now have to play to make this right for the people.
I mean, without a doubt, Mayor Veler, you were working for your constituents. I mean, the courage that you showed being able to push this forward and get this approved and address the problem that your constituents were faced with. Many are some are generational, like in terms of the issues. So we certainly commend you for taking the lead on this and bringing Salem, New Jersey sort of into the next level of trying to fix a lot of these problems.
And that was a consideration as well. Everybody's afraid of change, but American Water was just going to be so much better. People could pay their bills monthly. There's a foundation for people who are struggling. And one of the other things I just have to plug, because I love it, American Water has a program called Water Up. And Water Up trains entry-level water and sewer workers who potentially want to go into this as a career. And they train, anyone who's unemployed, who's underemployed, and when jobs become available, they open those up to community residents. And that was another key thing that American Water did for us.
That is an amazing story, and something that is unique that American Water in New Jersey offers, right? So I mean, who's going to be against getting people to work, right? People want to work, right? And be able to offer an opportunity to do that is phenomenal.
Talk about labor issues all the time in the industry. So you're
Yes.
solving two things here. We love to share success stories here at Water Online. That's why we're here. Bearing that in mind, this issue is going to crop up for a lot of people. The regulations have come down. They've been delayed a little bit, but everyone's going to have to hit that 4 parts per trillion at some point. So having gone through this and made the decisions you made, are there any lessons that you can give? Not all utilities and municipalities will have the economy of scale that American Water has. But are there any like kind of universal lessons that you can share with our viewers and listeners about how to address the PFAS issue?
I was jealous of Pennsgrove because Pennsgrove was already an American Water community, and they had the setup, like everything was already in place in Pennsgrove. They were completely unaffected when this occurred. So, small communities especially need to be aware that they need to get ahead of this. If you're not going to, sell the utility to, a company like American Water that has that scale and can just jump in and get it done, then they're really going to need to start looking at how they're going to do it. And my concern isn't just the PFAS. We're dealing with microplastic crisis. Like that's the next big thing I can see looming on the horizon. And we would never be equipped to deal with that with our size. So it's like I said, if you look at it as a shared service and not just, oh, we're selling the utility, it makes a lot of sense for smaller communities.
Hard to argue with that. I mean, it is, when you talk about Kevin and I, a lot of times on this show, try to break it down to what is the best first next step, right? So what do smaller communities do first, right? When they're trying to solve these problems, whether it's PFAS or microplastics, all of that. And it helps to have other communities that have been through this to sort of show a roadmap for it. And Salem, New Jersey seems to be one of those sort of role models that gives a roadmap as to this is one way you could handle it. And it seems to be working quite well for everybody involved, which is fantastic. So I want to just take a moment and thank both of you for coming on air here today. There was a lot of good information in here, but it was also inspiring, right? Because there's a lot of communities nationwide that are of similar size, that have similar struggles. And being able to identify with a community leader like yourself, Mayor, and utilizing such a wonderful water service provider in American Water. So with you there, Mark, in New Jersey, just a phenomenal story. And we are so happy that you were able to, that you were okay with spending some time here with us and preaching that story and giving the specifics of that story out to our listeners. So I wanted to just take a moment on behalf of Kevin and I to thank you for coming on the Water Online show.
Oh, my pleasure.
And for all of you out there who spent your time here with us, we appreciate you listening, you watching, and we cannot wait to welcome you back for our next episode. So we will sign off for now, and we will see you all next time.